Yo, what's up, man? It's Boxing Basement, the Triple B. Remember to hit like because it's free. Anyway, yeah, this is a slightly whack video. Because boxing is all about a soap opera, theatre, stories, PR, BS. And, I hate to talk about rumors. Tell me when the fight's been signed, the contract's been signed, tell me the date, and tell me when there's a press conference to announce it. Otherwise, you might as well not bother talking about what might happen, who might fight who. But it was interesting to see that former middleweight world champion Gennady Golovkin is apparently, allegedly, thinking about going back into the ring. Triple G. That's not Triple B. That's not Triple K. The Korean Corey King. There's a lot of triples around here. But, yeah, so, Golovkin has teased the comeback. Now, I think he's 43 years old. But he's a clean-living guy, I think. He's not a pisshead like Sergey Kovalev, who I respect. And he hasn't boxed since 2022 when he faced Canelo Alvarez and possibly lost that fight, although the other two fights he probably won, So he's recently been appointed the chair of the Olympic Commission for World Boxing and was very involved in the recent World Boxing Championships in Liverpool. And, he's from Kazakhstan, who are second. They're above Uzbekistan, but there's only two nations dominating amateur boxing, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. Triple G's from Kazakhstan. They won 7 gold medals, 1 silver and 2 bronzes. I hope that means the men only, because I don't care about women's boxing, because women's boxing is a piece of shit. Yeah. So Golovkin is, he's a good guy. You can just tell. You could just tell by the way he acts with respect. He doesn't look like he's been bought, And he's obviously thrilled that Kazakhstan is doing so well in amateur boxing. But apparently, he was asked, would you make a return to the ring? Would you consider a return to the ring? And Golovkin said, yes, why not? I feel my old emotions here. Now, obviously, that's a bit, it's a bit flaky. It's not a real answer. He's saying possibly, and he's hinted that he has an opponent in mind. If he does come back and lace up his gloves, but he said, when he was asked, who would you fight? He goes, that's my secret, Golovkin said. Well, okay, mate. Now, Golovkin's obviously had a super career. He's beaten some serious world-class fighters in style, He has also been robbed against Canelo. Currently, at this point, if you look at his career, it's excellent. You think, well, why does he want to come back, man? He even won a silver medal in the Olympics as an amateur. He has a record of 42 wins with 37 big wins by way of KO. 2 losses to Canelo and 1 draw. So his only reverses have been to Canelo. But he's also beaten the following: Sergey Derevyanchenko, Ryoto Murata. These are all former world champions. Daniel Jacobs, Kell Brook, former world champion. David Lemieux, former world champion. William Monroe Jr., good fighter. Marco Antonio Rubio, former world champion. Daniel Gill, former world champion. Matthew Macklin, good fighter. Got brutalized with body shots. Curtis Stevens, Gregor Proxer, Gabriel Rosado. I mean, this guy's record speaks for itself. And he could hang with any. I don't really believe in the, people comparing eras for a number of reasons. PEDs, weigh-ins, intravenous, rehydration. There's all kinds of stuff that makes modern boxing very different from, boxing previously to it. So I don't like to compare generations. However, Golovkin has a super resume, and he can only be as good as Kasim Ouma, another guy he knocked out. You know, he's dealt with so many good fighters, and like I said, 3 Sal Alvarez fights, Canelo, 2 of which most people thought he won. So allegedly he's thinking about coming back. So what would he do? What weight would he come back as? Well, I assume it'd be super middleweight. Because, he's fought at super middleweight. Let's have a look. Only once against Alvarez for the 3rd fight, which he lost on points. But I assume he would come back at that weight. So when he's talking about who might he fight, well, there's only one super middleweight king at the moment. He's black as tar. He's 11:59 p.m. He looks like an oil slick with 2 marbles in it. And who am I talking about? A guy whose tattoos you can't even look at. He's so dark. Terence Crawford. Now, Crawford beat Canelo, deservedly, but it's a weird fight because Crawford seemed to have put on massive muscle weight in a short period. But at the moment, the undisputed WBO, IBF, WBA, and WBC champion is Terence Crawford. And if Golovkin does want to come back, he's not going to come back against a bum. There's no need for warm-up fights. You might say, well, he shouldn't be rated. Well, Pacquiao came back and, to my opinion, beat Mario Barrios after, 5 or 6 years out? The organizations are all corrupt. And then if it makes money and they'll take their percentage, it doesn't matter. Caleb Plant is the WBA interim champion. Christian Mbili is the interim champion for the WBC. So, I don't think he'd be interested in any of the latter 2. So it's got to be Terence Crawford if he comes back at super middleweight. And will it be a super fight? Well, they'll certainly push it. It'll be a weird fight. Crawford is pushing 40. Golovkin is 43. But, with the right money, with the Turki Al Sheikh bag, the huge bag of, what's the Saudi Arabian currency? Dinar or something? I don't know, whatever. But there's a big bag there. And when you got guys that retire and they tease they tease a comeback, they these days they want to come out with a big fight, and that would only be Terence Crawford, in my opinion, unless it was Crawford moves down to middleweight or light middleweight, which I don't see. I see he's the same. I see Crawford is the same. He wants the big paydays. He wants the big fights. Crawford vs Triple G. Will it happen? And who will win? Crawford was impressive, but then Canelo was flat-footed. He looked whack. He had no work rate. He couldn't cut off the ring. He looked, I wouldn't say a novice, but he looked novice-y. And I was quite surprised by that. I thought Canelo's natural weight advantage would be the difference, but Crawford had all the best supplements, all the best nutrition. He was as muscled as a super middle, well, more obviously than he's been in any other weight, with almost no fat on his 2 minutes to midnight coloured skin. So, and there's no racism, right? He's just dark, man. You can't even see his tattoos on his body. So, Golovkin has no tattoos, which I respect. Whenever I see a UFC or boxer without tattoos, I'm like, well done, man. At least you've not been pulled into, that pathetic, what do you say? I want to start with community. That, when people think, oh, I'm gonna actually mutilate my own skin, poison my own blood supply, poison my lymph nodes by getting covered in tattoos, which mean nothing. But, so Golovkin, the man who looks like a chartered accountant, who looks like a nerd. Crawford, will it happen? It's impossible to say. Golovkin obviously has a position of importance now in amateur boxing, and he seems focused on cleaning amateur boxing up because there's been plenty of weird decisions, letting pros fight in the Olympics and an international competition, and the former, what is it, the IBA that used to do look after amateur boxing and Olympic boxing have been exposed as wrong-uns, which is hardly surprising. This is boxing, but yeah, I mean, would like to see Golovkin come back? For me, no. For me, no. When you get these legends, when you get these guys who've lived their life cleanly, they've become legends, like Usyk, Lomachenko. I want to see him to retire at the right time, which is why I'm pleased that Lomachenko retired. I'd like Usyk to retire. Golovkin should stay retired. But maybe he's got the itch. Maybe he's got the itch. And if he has got the itch, I guess he has come back against Terence Crawford.